Hello, my sexy muffins, and welcome back to another video. In this video, we are doing the medium backstory of Valentina and how she was the way she was, and that's what we're going to be doing. So let's get on to it. First of all, disclaimer: the art made in this is commissioned for by Gav Imp. I will be having more Valentina art as her demon self. This art of hers after her first pregnancy and when she was pregnant with her second child that ended in bad stuff. But anyways, it is going to be there's going to be mentions of trafficking and all that stuff, and also other really bad stuff like religious trauma and harmies against children. That is open hand stuff, and also religious uh, harmies, and also a lot of other stuff. So be warned, this video might not be for you. Trigger warning now. Yes. So, anyways, let's get on to the video. Thank you, Gav, for making the artwork, by the way. Anyways, Valentina's backstory when she was human. This is an AU version of Valentina of when she was human and when she was RAU of Valentina, and way different from Valentino, but she does take the place of female Valentino. So let's do this. She was born July 3rd, 1939. The listener, were born a different date. You can choose whatever date is your birthday. 1938. So you're about a year and a half younger than her. She died 1974, and this all starts with her household. Her parents were very well off, like really well off. Like it's the Great Depression, I think. Still, I can't remember. I'm not looking up dates right now, but it's either after or during the Great Depression. They lived in the Great Depression, but they thrived in the Great Depression. They were old money, and they had a ton of it still. And they had her, of course, her mother wanted a son to carry on the family name and could have no more kids because it was a very rough birthing process that ended up with a hysterectomy. So all their things were put on marrying her daughter off, marrying Valentina off. When her name was Valerie at the time. I think that's what me and Benjamin agreed on. I will just say Valentina because it's easier for the character, but that's not her human name. Valentina had a lot of issues growing up. Her family were very harmful. She had uncles that would do very adult things to her when she was young, so she ended up becoming a nymphomaniac, which today now is known as hypersexuality. So she had trauma from that. She also had religious trauma because she went to an all Catholic girls' school, and when she started to hit puberty, she hit it early. She was rather busty and had fabulous curves, even for her age. She was not the stereotypical looks of what was normal for back in the day. She was well developed. And of course, at 13, this caught a lot of attention from the nuns of her being a harlot for just having an overdeveloped young body. Anyways, she started to notice girls because she's pansexual, but at this time that was not figured out. So she liked men and women, and she wanted to be with a woman at the time, so she started to date girls in her class. Of course, this ended up going back to the nuns, and she was physically harmed repeatedly, aggressively for this, and would come with bruises and stuff. And when her family figured out, they also harmed her physically. It was very bad, and they wanted to send her away. Of course, she did not, and this continued on and on of her being a wild child, more or less, as she grew up and hooking up and having adult fun time and all that. It was a different time period. It was the 40s, so the 40s or 50s, so it was really a wild time, so it was not okay. All the stuff that happens in this is not okay, obviously. Disclaimer. And she didn't have a lot to do, so eventually her family sent her away to troubled girls home, but she ran away from that after abuse from the staff. And then she basically lived a couple of years as a wild child and then got into college. Surprisingly, she was very smart for her age. And also, when she tested out of high school and stuff, because she just couldn't stand being in classes anymore, she ended up going straight to university. Now, she was in the university at 17, 18, roughly, and she still had a wild time there. She started to date girls, and it was more common at this time for girls to have girl and girl friends and such, and it was seen as the college experience at the time. At least in America, it was. I'm putting it in this because it's an AU because of that. But in the past, it was until girls were figured out that they have actually want to be with girls for adult fun time. It was normal for girls to have girl relationships in the past, and that is what she did. And she was with various women and was very popular with the ladies and with the men as well. She would be the type of child that went to parties, smoked cigarettes, did drugs, drank, all that. She was very popular and a wild child. Eventually, after graduating, she hit a slump and started to get financially temporary cut off from her parents. This is where some bad stuff happened. She ended up starting to seduce men and women for their money, and it was more or less a working girl, and she made money that way, and eventually she started to become a pimp. She eventually became a pimp from girls that were working and just influenced and manipulated them. This was the start of her dipping her toes into being a pimp and trafficker and stuff. So she very much had all this situation set up for all that. And the religious trauma, the hypersexuality, the easily to manipulate others, she started to go down this dark path. As the years go on, she now hates classical art. That's why I forgot. I skipped over that. Anyways, fast forward back to the past. Her parents forced her to play the piano, violin, all that stuff, and forced her to do it through her childhood and such, and that she hated music and she hated classical arts of drawing and paintings of classic art because of her parents, because they forced it on her. She's really good at it, really fucking fabulous as the artwork, but she hates it. She despises it. So at this point, she hates that stuff and she prefers the more modern art. It is now the 50s, and she meets and she's well off. She's has her adult fun time of business and of girls, and she's also trafficking men and women at this point. Disclaimer: this did not actually happen. This is a fiction. Disclaimer. And she had all that going on for her and was well off. She also inherited from a couple of uncles and aunts that passed a few properties in Italy. So she had her own place and she had it in her name, so parents couldn't take it away and type of stuff. So she was well off. She was very well off, and converted the underground basement in her manor, which she remodeled at when she first got it, into a sex dungeon, basically. Again, this is not going to be monetized for various reasons. Anyways, so she has this and she has her captives below her main manor, and she eventually meets you. And let me see the notes. In 1953, roughly. 1953, roughly. She met you at a party. You were eventually, she fell in love with you in obsession right away and ended up baby trapping you by becoming pregnant with Isabella, your guys' future daughter. And she loved her kid. She was actually a really good mom. Like, she didn't want to make any of the mistakes she did, what like her parents did, force religion, force art or music, just want her kid to be a kid. And she was actually a really good mom, especially for the time period and especially for who she was. And she also at the time was doing drugs to keep her body skinny, pharmaceuticals that were made for women to stay skinny and snatched and all that, and also was smoking and stuff. She After her first baby, she decided not to smoke around her baby just in case, so her baby didn't get addicted and stuff. She didn't know that was harmful to kids at the time, but she thought it couldn't be good if it gets her addicted and that stuff. She was still on the pharmaceuticals during her second pregnancy, which the artwork that you're seeing is her after her first pregnancy with a second pregnancy that she was unaware of. And since she was on those pharmaceuticals and smoking and stuff, she had a miscarriage. She was devastated. She felt like a failure of a woman. She felt devastated. But who was there for her? Her husband. Her husband, you, the listener. You were there for her and you supported her. Now, flashback a bit when she's pregnant and you guys were painting the nursery, and you actually got her to paint an abstract mural and got her back into love and art and to enjoy art. And eventually, this enjoyment where you were just painting casually and wiping the brush all over, making weird patterns, she created a mural. And because of your excitement for it, she started to love art again. And this caused her to eventually, when her daughter was old enough, to do finger painting, which you guys gladly put on the fridge, framed in the hallways. The hallways, the bedrooms, the fridge was covered in finger paints and drawings and sketches that her and her daughter did together that weren't just were never classical arts, but just them having fun together. And it made her love art again because it was fun now. It was fun and she could explore it how she wanted to and have support in her art, which was fabulous. And also, you and her went on dates where you guys would drink wine and just paint a picture together of something similar. And you, even though your art skills were not as good as hers, she loved it because it was something to do with you. And you sparked that enjoyment that she lacked her whole life in, which made her love you and obsess of you over you even more. As the years go on and all this is going on, she also learns to love music with her daughter, just playing on the piano, teaching her how to play, but never putting pressure on her. And also how you love to listen to her play. It was just beautiful. You found her old artworks and put them up because she made them and they were a part of her. But she didn't have to make stuff like that anymore. And you were just so supportive. You are the house husbando that everyone needs at this point. Rewind to when she was pregnant and telling her family that she's going to marry you. Her family drops on the bomb that she's actually arranged marriage and that she has to get rid of the baby and to break off the engagement and marry the guy that they want her to. She does not take this well, and she was planning on ending them very soon, but this is what sparked her to end them faster so she did not lose you or her baby because you were the family that she wanted, and they still had her in the will because she had to inherit everything and then eventually get the stuff from her husband, her false engagement and stuff, which she eventually probably unalived her fiance as well, her arranged a fiance as well, let's be honest. And then there was that. The family life was perfect. She was trafficking people under the house. She threw grand parties for clients and for just friends and stuff. She had the whole world convinced that she was a good wife, good mother, and a self-sufficient woman, which she was a self-sufficient woman, just in the darker way. And eventually, she got into adult films and started to record them, making her a very saucy woman. And people were fine with that as well until they figured out what was happening under the house, which one of the victims, which you, the listener, figured out about this, found her dungeon and saw the people in very poor conditions and then confronted her. The guns went off, and eventually your daughter came home and found you both dead, having shot each other, and found the dungeon. And that is basically the backstory of the rough gist of it, of what happened and how it came to be and how dangerous it was. Super dangerous. Your daughter was 16 at the time or 15, I can't remember which, and was had to grow up without rest of her years without her mother and had to face the backlash of what her mother did and what her father did by shooting her mother. Your daughter went to heaven and you went to hell, where you stay hidden from Valentina for many years until 2022, where she finds you again. And that's the rough gist of it. I may have missed some things. I tried to get everything in the details, but this is the main stuff that's important. So I hope that you all enjoyed this and stay sexy, all my sexy muffins. Bye bye. If I forgot anything, I might do shorts about updating it. Benjamin, tell me if I forgot anything. I did my best. My brain, I'm in a mental health crisis and my brain is just ugh. So anyways, I hope y'all enjoyed and stay sexy on my sexy muffins. Bye bye.